Hey everybody, welcome. This is Marjory Wildcraft, and today I'm really delighted to have Andy Scheckman from Miles Franklin Mint on the call with me today on the video. It's absolutely vital and urgent that you buy some silver. I've been stacking silver for like 20 years, and I'll show you some more of these. These are American Eagles, but this is like in this completely insane world. This is an opportunity. Like if you missed Bitcoin, if you missed all the other stuff, buying Amazon stock when it was launched, if you missed the dot-com bubble, silver is your opportunity, and we are so near the edge of when it's going to explode in price. So Andy, welcome to the call, and I'm hoping that you can explain to people who are maybe had never heard of this, I think I'm crazy, like why is silver such a good investment?
Well, I don't think you're crazy at all, Marjorie. Thanks for having me. I think that silver is in many respects the most undervalued, underappreciated asset on the planet, an asset that is diminishing or decreasing in value across the globe in terms of its geographic or geologic rather, geologic footprint. It's called the mining ratio, is decreasing exponentially, and at the same time, its demand, its uses in green, in digital, in military applications, let alone its monetary renaissance, is expanding and has been now for 2 years. To me, there's a term called asymmetrical risk reward, which basically says, what is an asset that I can buy that has the lowest downside and the best upside? And I, in my career, have never seen an asset that rivals the asymmetrical risk reward profile that silver exhibits right now. I don't think there's anything even in its league.
I completely agree with you. And people, they know me as the gardening rabbits, chickens lady. But before I got into this, I was a professional investor. And I've actually made way more money via investments than I ever have as a business owner. And hands down, I have never seen anything so unbelievably good as physical silver. And I think the other thing that makes it so accessible is, even if you don't have a lot of money, you can go to a pawn shop and buy some pre-1964 quarters, which are approximately 90% silver. Even if you only have a few dollars, you can get a couple of these. And this is actually worth more than gold. It's incredible. So how can it be that the price is so low, and yet we're using it up in solar panels, we're using it in medical stuff, it's used as money, but yet it's still like right? I think we're talking $22 an ounce.
Right. Well, the price is really being controlled on the COMEX market. And that's an issue that I think people need to understand. The price setting mechanism of the West is a leveraged futures contract platform where a handful of large commercial banks called bullion banks like Bank of America or JP Morgan can sell paper contracts short to the point where right now the number of bars on the exchange versus the contracts that are sold that are a reflection of those bars. In other words, the exchange issues contracts that are being backed by actual physical bars on the exchange that you can actually take delivery of. The problem is that right now there is a 1,700% rehypothecation in those bars. In other words, there's 1,700% more contracts issued than there are bars backing them. If everyone stood for delivery, 16 people, in essence, in theory, would be cash settled. One would get their bars, rendering the entire exchange insolvent. It would be force majeure. It would be the same thing as a complete and total default. So that leverage that these banks are able to achieve through accumulating very large positions in contracts that have massive leverage allows them, in essence, to create a perception of reality. And at the same time, the biggest money in the world across the globe are draining all of the exchanges of their available bars, like the COMEX market, like the Shanghai Gold Exchange, like the London Metals Exchange. All of these bars are being siphoned off of the exchanges at the Western price that is being used against us. Countries like India, who have imported 400 million ounces of silver in the last 2 years, that's roughly twice what is being held on the entire COMEX market. And so when you talk about a price that is being suppressed on one hand to fit the agenda of the West, well, the rest of the world is using it as an incentive to accumulate copious amounts and to remove any and all counterparty risk by taking possession of those bars and pulling them off the exchange. And that's a trend that we've been seeing now for quite some time, actually.
And that's actually something we should be doing on whatever scale that we can handle it, which for me is just buying some coins every now and then. But I have them in my physical possession. I don't buy them via an ETF or in some vault or something. I got them in my hand, and it doesn't take a lot. Like, I'm looking at this 1 ounce coin of silver, and I'm thinking that this should be valued at the price of gold, if not like 10 times the price of gold. So this thing I bought for $25 should really be worth somewhere between $2,000 and $10,000 an ounce. Is that somewhat your what?
Well, I to pick a number, I think is challenging. I'll say it this way: if we want to talk about mathematics, which I'm a big fan of, it's coming out of the ground right now at a 7-to-1 ratio to gold. Silver is, and globally. So if you take silver just where we are right now at roughly $2,050 an ounce, just under, but we'll use that for the sake of math, and we divide that by 7, if tomorrow morning silver was $293 an ounce, it would not be unreasonable at all. In fact, that would be a logical assessment based upon the global relationship geologically and mining between gold and silver. When you talk about the fact that gold and silver have been historically suppressed by a handful of banks that are trying to maintain the illusion of dollar and bond market supremacy, and gold should be much higher, yes, the sky is the limit. I would simply say that right now the relationship between those two, gold and silver, is roughly 90-to-1. That is a historical anomaly, both geologically and historically in terms of its price relationship going back over 5,000 years. And so, to me, the moral of the story is simply that both are massively undervalued. Both have been historically suppressed to maintain dollar supremacy, this illusion, to make our bond market seem stronger than it is. And as the rest of the world continues to accumulate gold and silver, you will see, I believe, a shifting of the guard, a changing of the guard in terms of what exchanges actually set the price. Currently in Shanghai, the price of silver is roughly $3 an ounce higher than it is in London and in the United States. They are slowly turning up the arbitrage heat as they will entice the traders who have access to both markets, both the Shanghai Exchange and the Western markets like the LBMA and the COMEX, to purchase contracts in the West, in London or Chicago, and take delivery in Shanghai. That metal will never come back. And $3 an ounce on large amounts is enough to entice any trader who is interested in profiting rather than in fundamentals of strength of country, and just how important it is that we look at silver, I think, not even as an industrial metal, but as a strategic metal, one that is needed in so many facets of industry in terms of green and digital applications. But, there's 500 ounces of silver in the tip of every Tomahawk cruise missile. And it's interesting that the Silver Institute does not list the military component of silver in the supply-demand fundamentals. And it is undoubted, it is non-subjective, it is unequivocal that there are copious amounts used in silver used in military components and in aerospace components and all of these things. And one must wonder, why is that not the case? And maybe that's part of the reason why you have a handful of banks representing perhaps the military industrial complex that are holding down the paper price of silver, because it is needed to fund the ever increasing battles and conflicts that we see around the world, where if you don't have silver, you cannot make your high-tech weaponry. There is 500 ounces in the tip of every Tomahawk cruise missile. So what does that say about all of the high-tech weaponry and all of the high-tech airplanes and aerospace and satellite and all of these types of high tech components that go into warfare that is not listed in the supply demand fundamentals of the Silver Institute. I have spoken with people at the Department of Defense who will tell you, in fact, one of them just sent me this. He sent me this mug because we've become very friendly, and he's actually the one who developed the Patriot missile. And oops, sorry about that. They always want to say hi when I'm in the middle of a podcast. Anyways, bottom line is that silver is an integral and strategic metal. In fact, there was, I don't know, several dozen market participants in the mining industry and in BlackRock that petitioned the Canadian government to indeed change silver from industrial to strategic. Now, that should be done here in the United States as well. But I think it speaks to the rationale why a couple of banks would be, like Bank of America is naked short 1 billion ounces of silver right now on the COMEX exchange. That's as dumb as a mud wall. And so when you talk about rationale as to why these entities would short silver when it is needed, so dramatically needed, it begins to, I think, cast a shadow, if you will, over the line between conspiracy and reality. What is the truth? All I can tell you is that even without the military industrial complex being listed in the supply demand fundamentals, we have run a structural deficit of over 200 million ounces per year for the last going on 3 years. The demand is outstripping the supply, which is disappearing because it's found in nature in a form called epithermal. Just like your skin is epidermis, epithermal means it's found right near the surface. So of the billion ounces that were mined last year, and there was almost 1.3 million demanded, but of those billion ounces, only roughly 250 to 300 million came from companies that actually mine silver. The rest of it came from byproduct mining where companies just stumbled across it. What that tells me is that it's so hard to find it that the companies who specialize in looking for it only amounted to 2.5 to 3 ounces out of every 10 that were pulled out of the ground last year. And it's a diminishing trend that for 5,000 years was 16 to 1 and all of a sudden is now 7 to 1. So getting to your point, should it be worth more than gold? Well, it went from 16 to 1 to 7 to 1 and it's disappearing in nature. Who's to say it doesn't ultimately go to 1 to 1 or 1 to 2, where it actually has greater utility, greater demand, and becomes scarcer than gold does? Who's to say? That I can't tell you, but I think for you to make that statement is not crazy. Actually, it's within the realm of possibility, albeit, we may be a ways off from that, maybe not. But what I can tell you is that it is wholeheartedly undervalued for where it's priced right now. In my mind, at least a factor of 10, when you just simply take the price currently and divide it by 7, which is the current footprint geologically. At some point, that geological footprint has to sync up with reality. And when that does, people who are holding silver at these levels will witness a windfall that I don't think they ever intended to witness.
Andy, what is the best way that you recommend for people to buy silver? And again, we're talking about small investors. People may only have a few hundred or a few $1,000s, and they're looking to, get in on this as a way to be able to navigate the crazy years that we're headed into.
Yeah, for me, Marjory, it's in the Silver Eagle. And the Silver Eagle in this country is the most sought after, demanded form of silver that there is, or the pre-65 junk silver that you showed. There are states all throughout the country right now that have already passed legislation or have it in front of their state legislatures to allow coins made by a sovereign mint like the U.S. Mint to be used for all debts, public and private, including paying your property tax. So I think that when we talk about the preferred ways to own it, to me, the Silver Eagle is Coca-Cola. It is Cadillac. It is the most well-known way to purchase silver. And the greatest utility and flexibility would be found in the dimes, quarters, and half dollars minted prior to 1965, which, there is nothing that will offer that type of utility. The difference really to me, and although it may seem trivial when I say it, if you think about it, it's not, is that the pre-65 silver lacks the wow factor. And I think when you're trying to trade with someone in a really in an environment where most people have never seen silver coins before, because they've been out of our money for so long, been out of the vernacular for so long, been out of the spotlight for so long, that when they look at dimes and quarters, that are 60 plus years old, yeah, they can hear the difference in the noise it makes when you rattle it versus the current clad coins in our pocket. But
Yeah.
what do I want a dime from the 60s for, Marjorie, is what you might get. No, really, it's silver, and 14 of them is almost exactly an ounce, versus having a 1 ounce silver eagle that universally you put it in someone's hand and they'll say, wow, that's so neat, that's so cool, and immediately disarms them in terms of anything other than pure intentions. And so I think, to me, the silver eagle is the best choice if you want utility. It's found in the pre-65 silver, and I like them both. But for someone who's dipping their toe into this market first, I think you start with something that you love to look at, and that would be the silver eagle to me.
Oh, they're so
Again,
pretty.
I'm not trying to trivialize this, just simply trying to make a point that, I
And
think
it feels so good in your hand. It's kind of got this weight, and it's so shiny, and it's really pretty. I just love these coins. I don't know if I'd ever want to trade them, actually, because I just like the metal.
Absolutely. That's the way that I like to hold my metal anyways. You keep it with the intention of never using it. If you do, whether it be for an opportunity or an emergency, you're darn glad you have it. And if not, there are very few things that you can leave for family or friends or charities that have both intrinsic and sentimental value. This is one of them. And it's been wealth for 5,000 years through 2 world wars and German hyperinflation and the Great Depression and anything and everything the world has ever thrown its way. So for my money, it is the best form of wealth one can own that also offers a great deal of utility, especially in times of uncertainty like we find ourselves in now.
Well, Andy, I know you're super busy, and we had talked about only being able to get you for just a minute or two. How can people reach out to you and buy it? I mean, I've been actually, this is where I bought my 1 ounces is from Miles Franklin, and then I've also been picking up again the pre 1965 coinage. I kind of like them. You're right; they don't look as good. They're kind of like that. But they're smaller, and they're minted by the U.S. government, so people do recognize it as a quarter. I think it's a lot easier than, for example, I bought this over the weekend, which is a sterling silver goblet, but and this thing has about 5 ounces of silver in it, but it's like people are like, huh?
Well, it lacks liquidity. There's a great deal of subjectivity in that, and that's the point. You can have the greatest thing in the world if it lacks liquidity. Then and in that case, really the visibility. Then you end up with something that is compromised for the value that you found it for. So the best way to reach out to us, our website again is being retooled. In fact, by July will be completely new. And completely retooled. But my suggestion is to send us an email at info@milesfranklin.com and say Marjory Wildcraft sent me. Ask any questions, anything you've heard here, questions on IRAs, questions on economics, anything related, or just simply ask for our most competitive price list, which we don't publish and will be much better than what you see online on our website. And we'll send that to you with no obligation. And we would love to chat with you. We're a company that believes in relationships. We've done it that way for 34 years. We think where we're heading, relationships will and have never been more important, will continue to be very, very important and relevant in the economy that we're heading into and the times we're heading into. Or if you just want to see what prices we can do for you, more competitive than what you find on our website, just send us an email. Marjorie sent me, and send it to info@milesfranklin.com. And we will send that to you or reach out to you if asked and answer any questions that you may have about this or anything else that's on your mind related.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Andy. And I want to emphasize again, like the physical availability of inventory is just getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And I've been watching this manipulation for 23 years, wondering when is it going to end, But we really are at the point where there just isn't that much physical silver left in inventories anywhere. And they are mining some, but it's nowhere near what they're trying to do.
Well, we're
for
also
solar
getting to the
panels.
point where many of the very smart people around the world, like the central banks, which are not only the most well-funded, but the most well-informed traders in the world, are slowly bleeding dry what is available on all the wholesale marketplaces. And they are accumulating gold and silver using the suppression of the Western paper market against us, really, to accumulate right under the nose of the West while we're not even noticing it. I notice it. People who are following it notice it, but the people who someday may want to accumulate gold and silver will wake up to a reality that the majority was pickpocketed by the sophisticated investors before it became obvious that this is something you need to do. It goes part and parcel with why are all the executives like Jamie Dimon and like Jeff Bezos or like Zuckerberg from Facebook or the CFO from Discover, all of these very wealthy CEOs and CFOs and business owners are selling their stocks at a massive clip, building bunkers underground. At the same time, the BRICS have invited 35 new countries to formally apply to the BRICS on top of the 10 that they already have, and another 24 who have informally expressed interest on top of all of the chaos we see around the world and in this country. Owning gold and silver as wealth have never been more important. It is not an investment. It is wealth, and wealth that has lived through everything the world has thrown at it. So yeah, I think it is important, and you don't buy it to become wealthy. You buy it because it is wealth, and we'd love the opportunity to work with your listeners, Marjory, and I'd love the opportunity to come back on and pick up where we left off, hopefully real soon.
Well, I think it's real important to go with somebody you trust, and I've known Andy for quite a few years, and I've bought silver from him quite a few times, and I really highly recommend you work with him. And that's info@milesfranklin.com. Send him an email, tell him I sent you. He'll give you his best pricing. Thank you so much, Andy. I really
Thank you, Marjory. I
I
sure will do that, and I look forward to picking up where we left off. But to you and everyone else out there, hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.